Hello and welcome to the Quantum Light Conscious broadcast. Here we have Amanda Flaker. Amanda is an empathic coach, a mastermind leader, a light worker, a visionary, an entrepreneur coach, a speaker, and an abundance leader. With her company, AmandaFlaker.com, she guides her clients into stepping into their new abundance and getting more out of their lives and their life purpose. She programs people out of the matrix of lack and into a higher resonating level of living and creating from the heart. Amanda specializes in abundance and shows people how to use their energy to create an unlimited flow of potential and how to get more money to generate the abundance that they truly deserve. She also teaches self-empowerment to unblock and clear the chakra stream and to heal the mind, body, heart trinity so a higher resonant energy can manifest through her clients. Amanda, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
You're quite welcome. I actually wanted to get you on the show because of all the groundbreaking work that you've been doing in the community. You're like all over the place. You're actually on fire. Like when I watch your videos, it's basically like I'm watching a live raging fire and I'm kind of just like on the edge of my seat, kind of just trying to absorb everything that like comes at me from your wealth of information. And so I just wanted to ask you a couple questions about the things that you teach and you speak about on your YouTube channel.
Cool.
First question was, what are some of the easiest ways we can step into our new abundance?
I loved this question because I've been teaching about this for a really long time, and I feel like I'm always kind of at it at a new angle, and then I understand it deeper, and then I get it at a new angle and understand it even deeper. And I would say right now that the piece that has really helped me catch off like on fire is urge. And that's something, if you watch my videos, you've heard me talk about a lot. It's actually Rachel Jensen, something that she teaches, she's a friend of mine and a colleague, and she and I have collaborated together. And when we got together, she was like, okay, she'd been working on urge, I'd been working on abundance matrix, and we realized they just fit hand in hand because the abundance matrix is the program to sort of funnel our urge into, and urge is life force itself. It's our creative life force. And I really believe that in order to step more fully into our abundance, we've got to embrace our creative urge. We've got to embrace our unique creative urge that comes from within us. It's not something that outside of us that's telling us what to do. It's not a mimic program. It involves getting in touch with your urge, which involves getting in touch with your sexuality, which involves getting in touch with your heart, with your emotions, becoming more sensitive, becoming more tuned in. That's really the way to do it, especially right now in all the noise that's going on. It's easy to get looped into a mimic program.
It is. It really is. And there's a lot of self-unaware people walking around. However, there's a lot of like groundbreakers and movers and shakers that are actually shaking things up and actually making things happen, which is also very good.
Yeah. It's an exciting time, I think. I love that you said at the beginning, like you when you hear my conversations, you feel like it's a fire. That lights me up inside because I'm like, yes, that's what I want. I want it to take off. I want it to take off with everyday, with just people who are looking at what's going on and they're like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like, what is this? There's got to be we know there's something deeper to all this. We literally know it at this point scientifically, but it's not part of the mainstream conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so many things in the world just don't make sense. Like we go through like the traditional education and then the social systems and then the political systems, all those things, they just kind of like coagulate on each other and they compound and just creates like a ball of mess. And then you're like, well, we have to do something. So you kind of just start speaking our truth and then things start to change from there slowly but surely.
Exactly.
So how can we generate more abundant energy from our hearts and really get into that core center and start changing things around us?
Well, one of the things that I really has, again, been groundbreaking for me is the concept of understanding how to dissolve what I call our shadow contracts. And what I mean by that is anywhere where we're agreeing to the belief that there's not enough and we're not enough. And we are so deeply programmed with that from the time we are young that we don't realize that probably 90+% of our consciousness is going into supporting that program. We look for evidence of it, we act upon it, we speak about it. We literally use our creative tech to support a program of lack, a program that says there's not enough, we're not enough, so we have to prove who's worthy, hence the whole lack game. So what I would say in terms of tuning into your abundance and really stepping into it from a heart perspective is we first have to dissolve all the dynamics in our relationships and with others that are based on lack. And how we know, the quickest way I can say how to do that is, it's an exercise that I give in my Tantric Entrepreneur class, is tune into the main 5 people in your life, 5 to 6 people in your life. Literally write their names down. Next to it, write the emotions you have when you think about them. Then feel where you feel it in your body. What chakra do you feel it in? You'll know right away whether that dynamic in that relationship is based on lack or abundance. You can also do this with your bank, with the stores you shop at, with anything that you're supporting, literally with the roads you drive on, the route you take to work. Pay attention to how it feels and where you're feeling it in your body. Because if we can go there and shift it out there, we can shift everything, because abundance is truly about our relationship to life, healing our relationship. We're creators, healing our relationship to the matrix, not going to war with the matrix, but healing it. And in order to upgrade the program, we first have to understand what we're working with, understand how our tech works, and understand that at a core level, we're dissolving a program that says we're not enough, there's not enough. And it's just a program. It's just a program, but if we believe it and we act on it, we create it, because we're creators.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense, because we have so much power that we don't take advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
Their main focus, basically, whoever, like, the groups of people who set up the controls that control the masses, they use our co-creative power against us because of how powerful we are. And I really like what you said about how you should take inventory of the energies you feel, of the people who are in your life and the companies you deal with and the groups of people that you deal with, because that's where you start. You start from understanding where your resonance is and where it's going.
Yeah.
So how do we consistently keep that going? Like, how do we keep that flow of being resonant in our own abundance or in our inner reality?
For me, again, ever since Rachel introduced the concept of urge to me, and I've been playing with it and trying to understand what it means for me and how to understand it in a literal way, I've realized that my unique urge, has its own rhythm. And I've realized that when I am doing things according to like what the 9 to 5 is, or what people say, or again, the mimic program, I'm not in touch with my personal rhythm. And I think that getting out of the algorithms of lack, the algorithms that serve the system of lack, it really involves having to, again, it kind of goes back to having to tune in and then act on your urge, being aware of what you want and then take action on it. But we so often, it can be so difficult to do that, because we are programmed to go through long routes and hoops, jump through these hoops to get what you want, do these things that have literally nothing to do with anything we're urging for. We're programmed to do. That's what spins our energy. And so for it to be consistent, at least for me, I've had to find, and I'm still fine tuning it, a rhythm with my urge. I have to let my urge lead how I schedule my life, how I deal with people, what I give my attention to, what I don't, rather than having the outside world tell me what that is. And I think that's where the work is, because it does come natural to us for us to follow our urge, but we've been so deeply programmed with lack that we have to deprogram. And that means constantly tuning back into every time I'm taking an action or having a conversation. Lately, right in the middle of certain conversations I've been in, I've been like, you know what, this doesn't feel good. I don't even want to, and I'll just drop it in the middle of it. This is not in alignment with my urge. So it's that commitment to your urge, commitment to be in alignment with your creative urge, with your true, what turns you on, because we're creators, we want to create. That's where that sexual energy comes from. And And I think that we're just so used to routing that sexual energy through the bullshit, you know? So it really is about consistency, is about consistently choosing your urge over obligation, over fear of what other people think, over even just what you think you should do. You know, I should do this. As soon
Yeah,
as you're sitting on yourself, you know you're not most likely not in touch with your urge.
yeah, that's what Tony Robbins says. Don't should all over yourself. It's
Yeah,
like those things, they really get to people, and they really get to um, get individuals to start running themselves outside themselves. Like you see people, they're walking around, and they're kind of like outside their body, and they're not living like from the inside out, which is where all the magic happens from.
exactly.
So, like, what are your thoughts on this money magic system that we have to deal with, like on the planet Earth right now? Like, it's obvious it's like a dark magic. However, like money is good. Like we need it. It represents our energy, and commerce, fair trade is for the progress of humanity. However, do you think it's slavery or indentured servitude, or do you think it's fair?
Well, I think the problem with the money system is the same problem with the entire world global systems, which is it's based on the concept of lack. So something or someone always gets screwed over because there's the concept that there's not enough. And if you even listen to the rhetoric around money, it's always the scare tactic and this like there's not enough and who deserves and who doesn't. That's the whole war. It's all about that. Who's worthy, who's not, who's worthy to receive, who shouldn't receive, because there's not enough. And so I think what was, tell me again the beginning part of your question, because I loved how you said it.
Yeah, I just want to know your thoughts on the money system, the magic behind the money system, like how it's black magic, if
Yeah.
it's magic, and do you think if it's slavery or indentured servitude?
Okay. Yeah. Slavery, indentured servitude, and black magic. Okay, so when I read that, when you sent me the questions and I read that, I was like, yes, like that is the best question ever. And I think that it's where a lot of people are focusing energy because so much has come to the surface about what's going on behind the scenes. And so a lot of conspiracy theories are shooting off and a lot of them are real and true, you know? But I think as I've been watching it, because I've been studying the lack matrix and the abundance matrix, what I've seen is that really money is our resonance. That's the true vote we have. It's like it's our life force. Once again, the money system needs us. We don't need it. We
Right.
created it. It's just a symbol of trades that we do. But the value comes from the things we make, the things we're offering, the things we're giving, what we're receiving, and how well we're investing it in our lives as a whole, in each other and in the planet. And so I think it's not about money itself being evil, but it's about, or even, yeah, absolutely it enslaves people. Absolutely it's just the system itself is literally rooted in lack. But the thing that I think that we don't understand, which is so amazing about our human tech, is that we have the power to shift collective algorithms through our resonance. We have the power to shift collective mindsets, collective thought, simply through resonating in a powerful way when we are thriving. So if we, again, shift our association or our relationship to money and see it as our best friend or our lover or just our tool or whatever feels where you can put it in a place that it doesn't rule you, that it's not something you're serving, that you're jumping through hoops to get, that you're kissing ass to get, you know, like, or whatever it is that we do, that you're sacrificing ultimately, because the whole money system, the whole lack system is based on sacrifice.
Mhm.
So I think that if we, again, it goes back to connecting to our own creative power, because we can create any world we want. And I think the money magic is simply the spell of lack around a tool that we have. That's all that it is. And it's simply to try to control the tool. And so I really think that we have to shift our association to money and actually make it smaller in our mind, not so big, make us bigger than it. And something that I've been teaching a lot is literally, like when I said about writing your bank account or the bank that you go to down and asking yourself, how do I feel? What's the relationship with my bank? Where do I feel it in my body? And then literally going into the chakra that you feel that relationship to and anointing it for a purpose. because we are in where we're at and we're all tied up in it. But we can raise it and upgrade it and evolve it just simply by accepting where we are, forgiving ourselves, and upgrading the program, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I'll start, starting where we're at and really working with what we have and doing those things to make us more powerful than the control system or the lack systems that's been set up around us to serve that instead of, serving ourselves.
Exactly.
Because when we serve ourselves, we eventually end up serving the all, because it's like how you talk about the win-win-win, doing something where you win, somebody else wins, and then we all win.
Yeah, and the planet wins.
Right.
When we include the planet and the health of the planet in the equation, and that's part of our economy, and that's part of everyone's mindset when it comes to us thriving, that's part of the abundance matrix. And that's something we've left out historically through our systems. We haven't considered the planet.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we left out. So
yeah, exactly.
Okay, our fifth question, I think we just covered that: self-worth and money, basically making ourselves bigger than that and getting into our higher illuminated versions, like our better, more valuable or higher attaining and bigger philosophy of where we're at and where we're going. And so lately I've been seeing like a lot of identification with people thinking like they are a part of money, much to the extent to where they're willing to sell and itemize pieces of themselves off for it. Kind of like multiple different types of experiences and examples. Like, do you think some people literally can't tell them apart from the money that they use and the money other people have?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that it, again, because money is so deeply tied into our survival and our sense of self and our sense of worth and all of those things, and quite literally how we can move about on the earth in terms of like how much access we have, that it makes sense that people would identify entirely with money and seeing themselves as the thing is what you're saying. They're seeing them as the thing to sell.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly haven't really thought about that specifically, but I understand the psychology behind it. And it goes back to a belief in limitation, because if you're selling, if you're putting any sort of price on yourself, this is not about charging for a service you have, but if you are saying you are the thing you're selling and you're putting a price on that, it's, to me, insanely limiting what you are. But I do think that understanding that money is an extension of us and a tool that we can use. I think that maybe the difference is very subtle. It's a very subtle nuance, but again, it feels like, is it coming from a place of understanding that we are infinite and we are powerful and we can create anything we want, and that the real gold is in how well we're using our tech to create the world we want, rather than sacrificing and going to war because there's not enough. It's just kind of, which I think, again, people sell themselves sacrifice out.
Yeah.
Because they believe they don't have it within them.
Right. And there's a lot of fads going on with like the sexual energy just being just kind of just itemized and marketed online, just like body parts online. And then you have like different levels of people going and getting like their immersion of themselves in their own view of the world, saying, oh, if it has nothing to do about money, then it's got nothing to do with me. Like things like that, like simple little things like that. They, and then it's rampant in the hip hop music and the rap industry, and like Hollywood is a whole, it's a whole underworld of how people they kind of sell, like, I don't want to say their souls, but that's kind of what ends up happening, because they can't differentiate their own energy from the energy of money, because it's an actual flow of like creation that gets distorted with this black magic.
Yeah, I think that what you just said is so key, because I think what can happen is that when we sell our soul, or when we start believing that the flow comes in because we are because we have found something to give that people want. And then we keep serving that, like, oh, they like this, so I'm going to give more of this. Oh, they don't like this, I'm going to get, or this causes controversy, it causes a stir, whether people are like it or not. But it gets the flow in, it gets people energy towards you. Basically it's a way of siphoning off collective energy, and you end up serving that, ultimately ends up enslaving you, because we're seeing it right now with cancel culture. I think that's where a lot of the black magic comes in, and why it can feel like you've sold your soul, because it's no longer your urge leading it. It's the collective that's paying you, that is informing you what to do.
Right.
And that's how it's flipped. You're serving money, it's not serving you.
Right. Yeah. And so many people are mind controlled by it. They kind of treat it like a god, like, to the extent where they can't really, give attention or respect to anything that doesn't really have to do with money.
Yeah.
Especially to people who don't have it.
Yep. It's so true.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a question here. Kind of seems like a statement. So how do we how do we keep ourselves from being mind controlled by this, and kind of like staying out of that? Because we all have bills to pay, we all have obligations to fulfill, and responsibilities that we have to report to and take care of. How can we stop ourselves from falling into that trap, or that flowing river down to Hades, like filled with dark magic energy?
Yeah. I think that resonance is key, and sovereignty. That no matter what we're involved in system wise, like you said, we have to pay our bills. Most of us have to use a bank and all those things, it's just part of our life. But when we claim sovereignty over our resonance field, and when I say resonance, I literally mean the quality of the energy that we're projecting from our electromagnetic field. It has a very specific frequency or resonance that quite literally scientifically is pulling things to us and repelling things away from us. That's the tech. And true sovereignty, true freedom comes from knowing that all of our power is in how well we're regulating our own resonance. And that's within our control, within our Trinity tech. So within what we're saying, what we're thinking and feeling, and what we're acting on. And obviously we can't necessarily control what we feel, but we can control how we direct those emotions, because they're fuel. And that's why I talk about the abundance matrix, because when we have a purpose or something that we say, this is what I'm fueling my life force energy in, it actually gives us something to focus on, something to invest in. But most people are just going around just having no idea that they have any power whatsoever, and thinking all the power's out there and nothing's going to change until something out there changes. Hence why we use domination, force, control, censoring, mocking, fear, guilt, and shame, because we truly believe that the power's out there. And so to me, it's about resonance. To not be taken away by that energy, we have to understand sovereignty. That I am the only one that has intimate access to my urge and to the energy that's in me. I wasn't created from the outside in, I was created from the inside out.
Right.
So life, once my heart stops beating, I die. It has nothing to do with, it's influenced by the world out there, but there's so much within my control. And that's what most people don't get. They don't understand that they have any control over their resonance. But for me, the more I've been exploring this whole idea of resonance, it feels like I'm driving a spaceship. And it's like a multi-dimensional spaceship that I can go from parallel reality to parallel reality within. So as soon as I enter into a reality that's like, oh, nope, that's the dark magic world, or that's lack, or it's like, that's slavery, I'm like, oh, reshift. I get my mind back. I'm removing my energy from that thing, and I'm shifting. And you really start getting good at it, to where you realize, oh, I truly am free. There's been so many times in my life when I've experienced a level of freedom and disconnection from the collective that I'm like, I truly feel like I'm in my own universe. And this is our own planet. We are our own governed over our own planet, our own sovereign. We do have an influence on how we feel, how we think, and what the world feels, how much power we're giving to that outside world. So I think staying in your heart, staying in your own resonance, anointing your tech for a purpose, like having a purpose rather than just like, I'm going to give myself to a job to make money, but I'm not giving myself to a job or anything. I'm giving myself to a purpose, and I'm letting that purpose lead me. I'm actually going to use my technology for something that I truly want.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it really does. And the things that a lot of people don't really realize is that potential from the inside, that's unlimited. Like that literally is unlimited, because source energy isn't outside of anybody.
Exactly.
You know, you just said you were created from the inside out, and that's where everything happens. And coincidentally enough, lack comes from outside in, and it's kind of like, you know, it can be a paradox, or it can be like logic, like pure logic, like a no-brainer of what to do and how to move and how to be and how to feel. You know? It's really that perpetual consistency and determination to keep yourself on that path, which is what most people kind of struggle with. However, you know, it can be done. It's like why you know what you do, why you do what you do, to keep people aligning into that higher path for themselves.
Exactly.
So, do you have any tips on gearing your astral team to create like more abundance for heaven on earth? And who do you recommend that we work with?
I'll answer your first question, and then I want to ask you more questions about that second question.
Okay.
But I love the concept of an astral team, and what I've realized as I've just kind of dove deep into my own abyss of my heart is I've realized that how do I want to phrase this? Everything exists. And just like we can get fearful and think of people who hate us and people who are sending negative energy towards us, or governments that are corrupt or whatever that we can feel fearful of, there's also the exact opposite of that. There is so much support for life. Life itself is a miracle. And this entire planet is here to support life, to help life, for the purpose of living. And I think that we don't realize, when I say astral, I'm thinking of the psychic realms. So when I use the word astral, I'm thinking of, when you think of the collective, it's like this mess, loud, crowded space where there's no room. There's no room. And even when we psychically put our energy into it, it's like going smaller and smaller and smaller, getting squished. And it's psychic attack, because it's just flat out war, because it's based in lack. Mm-hmm. So getting our astral team, or tuning into the energy that's for us, that's more supportive of us, even the thought streams that are more supportive. There are people on this planet who are vibrating at a really high frequency. There are people who are resonating at heaven on earth, which is pleasure in the body, creating literal physical space and pleasure, creating more spaces for pleasure. And when we realize that we can unplug our thoughts astrally from the war and actually tune into what else is going on. When I've psychically fished around outside of that war, I'm like, whoa, there's this infinite amount of space. And there's this energy that lights up. At least for me, the way when I'm tuning in, it's like, oh, I can feel it. I can feel the frequency and they stand out. The people who are living in authenticity and actually paying attention to their resonance and choosing heaven on earth, choosing pleasure, choosing wellness, choosing thriving, they're palpable when you feel them. And it's easier actually to resonate there. And then it's like the universe just connects you to your tribe. And so when I say psychic or astrally connect to your team, it's like tune into those who are also urging for the same conversation you are. Tune into those who are like-minded. Tune into those who are building something rather than just tearing something down. You know, like the ones who are building heaven on earth, who are tuning into what can we do to thrive. There are brilliant people, scientists, musicians, artists, people like us that do this kind of work. There are so many people that are in alignment with abundance, and that conversation has been censored and silenced because the collective is too loud, because the fear is too loud. So we don't have to worry about the internet or anything like that. Our psychic abilities actually are what connect us to people. And just simply tuning your thoughts in to the conversation you're most urging for lines you up more to your tribe. And then you can, just like anything, what we look for evidence of, we find. So we just go on a hunt for heaven on earth. I want to find pockets of heaven on earth. I want to tune into that. What is it to me? What am I urging for? What is my soul? What's the conversation my soul is having? What does it want to have? Most people don't get there because they're afraid it's too weird, or no one else cares about this. Everyone's just in war. Humans are dumb. Humans are bad. Humans are whatever. So we don't get there. We don't even tune into our astral team because we're convinced that they don't exist, and that the only thing that exists here is war and trauma, which is just not true. Heaven on earth is here.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that is the main thing. People kind of just are more fearful based off of what other people think.
Exactly.
And that'll stop somebody from living out their lives, and they will live in quiet desperation and walk around guarded and hidden within their own bodies for until they die. However, it doesn't have to be like that. Like,
Exactly.
you can find out where you need to be on the inside and then live from there and create your own worlds from your own inner worlds.
Exactly.
And that's why I like your work so much, because you really are just shameless about bringing this out, and completely unfiltered is the better word, to kind of get people into their higher versions of self, and begin creating with their hearts, and bring more of their energy from their own heaven of earth to what really needs to be more heaven of earth here, in the physical earth.
Exactly.
And so I know you said, we should work with people who are our soul tribe, which, it becomes evident, who those people are. And, connecting with them is also very important. Do you have an astral, is that your astral team also, or is it like spirit guides or like abundance guides? Like, I know a lot of people work with the Hindu goddess Lakshmi.
Oh yeah.
Do you have a specific team that you work with, or you recommend others to work with?
Well, the main spirit guide, you can call it that, I've worked with is Jesus. And the reason why is because he was the ultimate empath. And he also absolutely taught that you are what you think, that you are not subject to this world, that that we actually have, when the Bible talks about having a connection to the Father, and I'm not Christian, by the way, I was Christian, but the deeper truths of that still are, to me, the foundation of everything. Because when he talks about having a relationship with the Father, to me, the Father is the mind. The mind is the creative principle. And I think that humans are at war with their tech. They're at war with their mind. Our mind has been split, essentially. We've been in a psychological warfare. And so getting back to trusting our tech, to me, Jesus to me was the ultimate example of how to do that without force, without domination, and without war. Yeah. And through resonance. And there's stories of Jesus outside of the Bible, other texts that other people have collected of him, that talk about him using the power of mirroring to literally send an army away from like marauders that were coming to towns to destroy them. He just stood there and projected back to them their own fear, their own pain, their own anger, their own war, and scared the shit out of that army, and they went running. And to me, that's our tech. Like, to me, what Jesus was saying is your human tech is so much more miraculous than any of you realize. You are not subject to this world, but we have to free our minds to do it. And to free our minds is to get free from that system you're talking about. Which, by the way, when you were talking a little bit ago, it sparked in me the reminder of how we, in the lack matrix, it's sexual energy that is siphoned to keep it alive. It's a complete illusion, but it's literally our sexual energy. And that's why sex sells. But it's our urge that's been redirected to serve lack. And then we have a lot of people who are just flat out terrified to use their urge because sex has been so distorted and twisted. And people have also been hurt and extremely psychologically and physically abused through that energy as well. So we have this, and then we see what's happening with all these child pedophilia rings coming out and like this sex energy on this planet has been so enslaved, and sex is our creative energy. Sex is the energy we're talking about when we're talking about money and all of it. That is our urge, our creative life force, and it has been absolutely siphoned off to serve lack. And I think that Jesus was the ultimate teacher of Tantra, of how to have a relationship, a personal, intimate relationship with life itself, and have communion with life, and have communion with the Father, the creative principle, have communion with the urge, have communion with creation, nature. Like it's such a deep level of connecting. It's so deeply sexual that I don't think most people get there because we are so used to siphoning off our sexual energy to serve lack.
Yeah, I totally agree. Jesus was probably one of like the most badass ascended masters like on the earth. Like he's like the guy, the dude to talk to. And if anybody out there has ever channeled him or spoken to him, he's down to earth, and he's actually like a real person. He's not like, oh, worship me, oh, do all this stuff. He's actually like a real leader who is a person to listen to, like, with your own discernment.
Yep.
And I like how you mentioned the tantra, because and the text that he had also had stories written about him in the Dead Sea Scrolls, because so many things are like distorted and misinformed with him and his wife Mary. And they actually did a lot with the heart, with the green flame of the heart, and transmuted so many things into higher creation just from understanding themselves as source itself, from living from the inside out. So I'd like to thank you, Amanda, for taking this time and being here to discuss these things. I know you are very busy, and I'm very honored and blessed to actually have you on the show, because I just felt like people need to know the answers to these questions.
Yeah.
And, so is there a place where people can get in contact with you for your mastermind?
Yeah, AmandaFlaker.com is finally up, and it's not glitching anymore. For a while, there were some glitches with it, but that's the primary area right now where all of my stuff's being offered and available. And so it's pretty simple, AmandaFlaker.com. And I'm obviously on YouTube and Instagram, and those are my main platforms that I use. Facebook too, but not necessarily for posting. That's for private groups. But yeah, and by the way, I'm so grateful you had me on too. This has been great. I love your questions. I think I've only done a few interviews, but I've been wanting like deeper questions, and I love how deep you went, and I love I haven't checked your channel out yet. When you messaged me, I hadn't heard of you yet, so I was like, "Ooh, I'm excited too." So I'm excited to check out your channel and see what you're up to, and I'm excited to share this too with my audience.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm glad we could get up and co-create and create this for the masses and the collective out there. So that's it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys would like to see more of Amanda's work, go to her website, AmandaFlaker.com. And we'll talk to you soon. Peace and love. See you next time.
All right. Thank you so much.